Hello Wolfpack, just a quick little Bitcoin update here, and before I get started I want to let you know that I'm doing a live stream tomorrow at 10 AM AEDT. Convert that to your local time and you'll see what time that is for you. I think that's about 12 hours from the time this video will be uploaded, and so keep an eye out for that. We'll be going over everything you guys want me to go over. Go ahead and ask me questions in the chat and I'll cover as many questions as possible. Last time we got through every single question covered, every single question sent, and so we'll be doing that again. Get keen for that. Bitcoin is looking interesting right now. Like usual, I always think it's in an interesting position, but particularly right now it's looking interesting because there is a divergence between what's going on in the short term and what's going on in the longer term. And Bitcoin, for sure, has had multiple of these little divergences over the past. For example, we had this double bottom here that didn't actually turn out to be a double bottom, right? Even though the short term suggested it would have. We dropped below. We suggested that, hey, we might have a bounce from this area. We didn't, and then we dropped below again. And now we're in a bit of a spot in which, hey, we're not going to be expecting too much here from Bitcoin, right? We just want to be waiting and seeing what's going to happen. We've got the Federal Reserve with interest rates going on that I've talked about quite extensively in the past few days, and how in March they're most likely going to be raising those interest rates. And so the market doesn't look good fundamentally. Stock market doesn't look good, but you know, Bitcoin is undervalued. In the current state of the market right now on the daily chart at least. RSI's reached abysmal levels, MACD's crossing right now. The only thing is it's undervalued, but there's no clear sign of an immediate bounce, okay? Could happen, it just means there's no clear sign. We have managed to take back this uptrending red line, which is good to see, okay? You love seeing things like that, taking back support there in Bitcoin. But other than that, there's really not much to be rejoicing about. We're still within this descending wedge formation. We have a shorter term channel formation that we need to be talking about shortly towards the end of this video, or maybe even in just a few minutes here. But there's nothing really too new happening on Bitcoin. For those of you who don't know, maybe it's your first time watching the channel, I think, and I've been predicting since around 60K, that Bitcoin will be trending downwards towards the 200-week SMA, which is this green line here, right? Predicted at 60K, we dropped below the 50-week. That was the confirmation of the prediction. And so far, we've dropped from 60K all the way down to around 33K, almost a 50% drop since the original prediction. So we've gone well so far, but I still think there's more to come. The question is whether that is coming after a bounce or after a bounce or before a bounce, really. And given the market structure right now and given what's going on with interest rates, it really wouldn't be surprising to see a bounce on Bitcoin. Now, I have two scenarios here on my Bitstamp chart, one of which is a yellow scenario in which we bounce up to 40K and we just keep chopping down in this channel and nothing really happens. The other scenario is the orange scenario in which we bounce up all the way to 48K and then we reject downwards towards the 200-week. Now, on the yellow scenario, we'll be reaching the 200-week in March. On the orange scenario, we'll be reaching it in May. That's just speculation. For the orange scenario could literally reach it whenever. The yellow scenario would be March, however, because that channel formation is kind of suggesting that's the case, okay? And so the earliest time in which we can reach the 200, reach the bottom on Bitcoin, which at that point in time will be at around 20K, the earliest time we can do that is in March, okay? Early March. Interesting to consider. Okay, so we have at least a month, and at most could be up to 6 months before we reach the bottom on Bitcoin. That's provided we don't break 48K. For those of you who watch my videos, you would know that 48K is the critical structure I'm looking for breaking on Bitcoin. If we break 48K, I will be happy to re-enter the market again, and I will be bullish in the market, right? Basically, the reason being is because every single critical daily chart support zone or resistance zone, is currently at the 48K region. By the time we get there, we'll flip everything. Also, the 48K region is holding the 50-week SMA in that region as well. And so breaking above 48K, we break above the 50-week SMA, the 50 and the 200 on the daily, the Ichimoku cloud on the daily, Gaussian channel on the daily, the Ichimoku cloud on the weekly, the Gaussian on the weekly. We'd basically break above everything if we break above 48K, right? And 48K, it sounds pretty close, but I would encourage you to kind of understand that 48K is actually still a 30% rise away, and so it's quite considerable. And so, in my opinion, anything that happens to Bitcoin while we are under 48K is just an extra step to working towards the 200-week SMA. So let me kind of clarify, like I do in every video. Let me clarify this. As long as we are below 48K, I think the next step for Bitcoin is the 200-week SMA. The time frame is debatable. Right, that's very important to say. The time frame is debatable, but the direction is very clear, downwards. Okay, as for the hourly chart, this is kind of the main thing I wanted to bring up in this video. We're seeing pretty interesting stuff in the short term. Now, I don't like looking at short term too much because it's very flip-flops every 2 minutes, but essentially this is the hourly chart, and we have a ascending channel formation at the bottom here. We have a clear bullish divergence on the RSI as well, which is great to see. And as you'll notice, this red uptrending line that I've drawn on the daily chart, you would have remembered, I'll just bring it up here quickly. This lower red uptrending line I've drawn on the daily chart is actually showing on the hourly chart, and right now Bitcoin is trying to flip that for support. Even on a time frame as low as the hourly chart, that red line is still active as support and resistance, and so it's a very critical line. And if we can clearly break upwards away from that line and, for example, swing to the top side of this channel formation, we might be in for a little run here on Bitcoin, and it is coincidental. It is a coincidence, and it's also maybe not, right? Because it's technical analysis that if we swing to the top of this channel formation, we could be retesting the top of the wedge formation as seen here as well. And so for that reason, we could actually be seeing a retest of 40K on Bitcoin within the next couple of days here. And I want to keep that in mind. And when we see that retest, if we see that retest of 40K, that, in my opinion, is not a reason to be bullish in the market again. That is just, as I said, another step to head further downwards. 40K retest very much on the table here for Bitcoin. Very, very much on the table. In fact, it looks relatively likely. I wouldn't say it looks ultimately likely because the stock market is in an interesting position. If the stock market just continues crashing, Bitcoin's going to continue crashing at a rapid speed. But don't be surprised if we see it, is what I'm saying. As for the point of control, the reason why this red line is interesting is because the point of control is on top of this red line right now, which just shows you how much trading volume is going on that red line. Basically, the largest amount of trading volume in this whole kind of structure here is happening on that red line. And so that red line is very clearly an important line to be looking at on Bitcoin. As I've just said, we could see a retest of 40K. Don't be surprised if we do. Don't be surprised if we don't. This video is not to give you a short-term trend direction on Bitcoin. This video is to outline the structures to you. The structure is an ascending wedge on the hourly chart, and the structure on the daily chart is a descending wedge. Sorry, an ascending channel on the hourly chart and a descending wedge on the daily chart. And also, it could be perceived as a descending channel. It's very clear the direction is downwards right now, and what we need to be looking for is constantly evaluating the market and looking for breakers to the upside. And 48K is that breaker right now. That might change in the future. But one more thing I want to bring up on the weekly chart that some people have been talking about quite extensively, and I don't know, I haven't actually drawn this before, I just wanted to see what it looks like on this video, is the uptrending line here on Bitcoin that is coming from the top in 2017 through to the current prices right now. And you can see that line cuts through the February, January lows, the May and July lows, and May, June and July lows, and also touching it right now. We've wicked off of that line. Now, whether that line actually holds for support or not is up for interpretation. I don't personally think it will. I think that 30K is the major support we need to be testing, not 33K. And so I think that line will break to the downside, but it is worth considering. What I would also note is that lines or trend lines on the logarithmic chart, which I'm on right now, are not very reliable. They tend to be distorted with time and very, very rarely continue holding forever. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this breaks at all. But let's keep an eye on it. It's interesting. It's worth considering for sure. At the end of the day, guys, the trend is downwards. And until we break 48K, I'm not going to be bullish in the market in any sense of the word. But it is definitely worth looking at this market on a daily basis and identifying new patterns and seeing what we can actually find here, because who knows, one day, I'm not going to say it hasn't happened before, it's happened plenty of times. One day I might look at this market and think, this actually doesn't look too bad. I think a trend reversal is likely here. Who knows? So let's keep looking at it. I'll catch you on a live stream tomorrow. We'll look at it again, and we'll also look at any of your altcoins or any questions you have in the market, as well as Ethereum and Bitcoin dominance. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.